Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for signing in to the KredX webinar on a masterclass on unlocking 10x e-commerce growth, proven tactics for business scaling and sales amplification. I am Anurag Jain, founder and executive director at KredX, and I am happy to be your moderator for today's session. So, very good afternoon, gentlemen. We are privileged to have a distinguished panel of speakers like you who bring a wealth of experience and expertise to share on this topic. So before getting into the details of the webinar, let me just give you some background about what we are going to discuss today, right? So in today's fast evolving landscape, the e-commerce sector is witnessing unprecedented growth, necessitating effective strategies to capitalize on this momentum. As competition intensifies, having proven tactics to scale and amplify sales can provide a significant competitive advantage. Today's topic addresses the practical steps needed to grow without compromising quality or customer satisfaction. Staying informed about the latest growth strategies can help businesses adapt to new trends and technologies, especially those reliant on festive season sales. So, let me first introduce the set of panelists that we have over here. So, first one is Mr. Soumik Bhusan, former CFO of Cocoblu. Soumik is a distinguished leader in finance and operations within India's retail sector. He has over 2 decades of experience in the retail sector and has held key roles at Amazon, Titan, Reliance Trends, and Bloomingdale's, demonstrating expertise in financial controls, strategic planning, and analytics and IT governance. Joining us next is Mr. Hriday Agarwal. He is the founder of Ecom 360 by Cashfree Payments. Hriday is a serial entrepreneur. His entrepreneurial journey underscores his commitment to quality customer experiences and building trust. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Siva Balakrishnan. He is the founder and CEO at Vserve. He is a seasoned professional with strong academic background and a decade of hands-on experience in launching and scaling technology outsourcing businesses. So a very good afternoon to all of you, gentlemen. So without much further ado, let's dive into our discussion. So, Soumik, perhaps you could kickstart our conversation by providing an overview of the current e-commerce landscape. This sector we have seen has gone through its peak and trough in the last couple of years. So, what is your sense at this point in time about the e-commerce landscape?
Yeah, thanks, Anurag, for the invite. Yeah, I think needless to say that the e-commerce landscape currently in India is almost like opportunity of a lifetime. Right, we have the right inputs in terms of the e-commerce market penetration, the user base, the market size, the smartphone penetration, as well as the changing behavioral kind of pattern in terms of what we are seeing, what the customers are wanting, right? Moving from retail to e-commerce to, I would say, quick commerce, we have seen quite a gradual kind of a gradual journey in how the market has kind of shaped up. So I think given these inputs and the potential which is there, I think I mean India is going to see a big boom in terms of its growth, the volume, the value, and also the the value enhancement it is going to create across the the supply chain, right? In starting from the providers of the supply chain finance, the supply chain finance, or even the providers of the supply chain in terms of the the delivery, the warehouse, I would say the warehouse storage, or even in terms of the analytics, right? Yeah, and also in terms of the labor force, right? I think all of these factors, would be a great enabler to this big growth, and we're already seeing a spike in this overall business, and I expect it to continue for the long term. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, so we are moving from e-commerce to Q-commerce, right? So
Absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
moving to
Yeah,
quick
yeah.
commerce, and so as per you, we have not peaked, and the best is yet to come.
Absolutely, absolutely. The best is yet to come. I think I'm not quoting the numbers which is there in the in the public domain in terms of what is the size which we will reach by the end of 2030. And even if you see currently the organized space in the retail market, it's still still there's a huge opportunity to grow. Within retail, e-commerce is still small, so which means that when I say small, it is small in a I would say a relative way. So hence it is the headroom to grow is much bigger, and hence all the partners in this ecosystem, starting from all the components which I mentioned, right, are if they're able to deliver the right customer experience, would be able to also grow, right? It is not the platforms per se, but also the entire value chain which has to cater to this growth. There's a huge opportunity to grow.
Sure. Understood. So let me come to you, Shiva. So at Vserve, what have you seen? Like, what are the effective methods to attract and retain customers in the competitive e-commerce landscape? Because one thing what we have seen in the last couple of years is that there isn't a lot of customer loyalty that we are seeing as far as the e-commerce marketplaces are concerned. So what are the the methods that you use or you've seen that can be effective to attract and retain customers?
Sorry. Yeah, I definitely agree with what Soumik said in terms of e-commerce going mainstream. Our primary customers are in the US, and about 7 years back when we started off, e-commerce used to be a niche, and everybody thought, we also thought when we got to it that be a niche that is worth spending time on. But now it's really mainstream. So what that means is everybody who is retailing anything also has an e-commerce play. It's no more an afterthought or something that somebody can specialize in and others can ignore. So what it's really led to is really what I'm going to call like an omni-channel approach to selling. So e-commerce as per se, we see a lot of standalone e-commerce companies, challenged a lot more by omni-channel players. So like, for example, one of the customers we are seeing in the US, Best Buy, which is a large electronics retailer, they've made this process so seamless where you can look at a product in the website, purchase it online, go pick it up in the car park of the Best Buy store and not even drive into the store. So you literally get a product which you're buying online in your hands within about 30-40 minutes, because it gets the nearest store next to you has the product ready, and he'll come and deliver it to your car. So that's omni-channel in one way. And then the other omni-channel approaches we are seeing is e-commerce companies collaborating with brick and mortar companies, where both of them work together. So the e-commerce guys, you can go pick up products in the like products can be picked up in coal, and so they're like making this whole transaction also seamless. So omni-channel is a big theme everywhere. So again, we see that happening in India in a big way as well. So beyond that, I think the other is customer retention, right? So in terms of how we can retain the customers we have acquired. And to that extent, a lot of tools, and one tool that we feel is very effective is just emails, right? So we have seen a lot of customers use some of the email technologies where there's mass customization which is possible. You can target emails based on the customer journey and where he is on the website and what he did, what the actions are. That's like very small amount of money spent on significant ROI. So Klaviyo is one of the tools that we've seen our customers use. And so there are a number of other tools as well. But so those are some of the things, some of the trends and tools that we are seeing customers are using nowadays.
In terms of the omni-channel approach that you talked about, Shiva, don't you think it's like one step forward and two steps back, right? Because we started with an online marketplace. The whole idea around having an online marketplace was to save cost, cut down in the inventory, cut down on the real estate cost, and so on and so forth. But somehow it looks like we are moving back to that era where we are also sort of understanding the importance of offline reach. Maybe that's a part of the broader customer experience that we want to give to our customers. But what is your take on that? Are we
Sure.
not moving back in that direction?
I don't believe so. So what's really happening, Anurag, is if you see, the percentage of e-commerce as overall, as percentage of the overall retail basket, it's still about like 25-30%. So it's been moving, maybe adding 2-3 percentage points every year. And COVID was a big jump. It jumped, and then what we're seeing is the numbers are again normalizing to that same curve. What we're really seeing is customers want convenience, right? Customers want their products the way they want it, and there are some products where experience is very important for them. So there they choose to, say, go to the store, go to the mall, experience the product, and then buy it. Some products, quick delivery and getting it immediately is important for them. So they use the, quick commerce route to do that. And then there are others where they want to have both, like convenience of shopping at home and also go say try it out in the malls or try it out in the retail store. So the way e-commerce is moving is really reflective of customer needs and customer requirements is my feeling, and that has become more sophisticated now. Customers want it wherever they want, however they want, and in the most convenient way. So maybe e-commerce and the way it's moving is just a reflection of that, Anurag.
Sure. Okay. So coming to you, Hriday, we just talked about overall, what are the ways in which we are able to attract customers and what are the different strategies that the companies are now choosing, to take in terms of attracting the customers. So how do you see data analytics being leveraged to make, informed business decisions and drive growth? Both at your organization, and in the industry in general.
Sure. So when it comes to data, right, like obviously we have come a long, long way when it comes to analyzing, making decisions so as to make the customer journey better, so as to help customers make better decisions as well, right? And we have seen it like, again, perspire through each and every stage, be it like for e-commerce merchants, especially e-commerce businesses, especially, it starts from like inventory planning, manufacturing planning, the stocking planning. When it comes to the user side, right, which is how do they understand the customer journey, what the customer is doing on the website, what the customer is doing on the platform or the app, so as to make the experience better. What we have seen in the recent past is obviously with the AI coming into the entire ecosystem, the recommendations engine and the search engine, the search recommendation and the product recommendation engines have gone through a massive, massive shift where platforms are actually able to advise, recommend customers the products that they would want to purchase. At the same time, a lot of models around language understanding has gone into understanding customer behavior and primarily the reviews that come onto the platform to actually understand what the customer feels about the product, to see what the customer thinks and how to get them back onto the website to shop again. And so again, merchants are also seeing, for an example, we see this a lot with clothing merchants, right? Merchants who sell fast fashion apparels and accessories. Sizing matters to them a lot. Now, again, the sizing itself is such a huge problem that what the trends essentially now show that if you understand data better, which is if, for an example, your pants have constant size issues in one part of the world, which is, for an example, Indian body shapes are different than body shapes in the US. That kind of data helps brands make better decisions, even when it comes to planning their production and size distribution across the globe. So we see data perspire through like all possible states, from manufacturing to post-purchase servicing of the customers.
So,
And one more thing, which is just to add on, right? Like data only makes sense at scale. We do see this trend that people sometimes get over obsessed with data, right? Small merchants who aren't at scale, do not have a lot of data, try to sometimes make sense of it, which actually does not add up.
correct.
So
I was actually coming to that. So in terms of data availability, it's been a more recent phenomenon as compared to the Western countries where they've been collecting data for the last couple of decades. So is it sort of right to sort of read too much into the data that the small businesses are getting on a day-to-day basis, or would you advise something else?
I always advise the smaller businesses. We deal with a lot of upcoming and growing merchants. We always tell the merchants to focus on what they do the best, which is the retail, which is their product. Initially, in the initial phases, right, we do see a obsession of tools. Like Siva pointed out, there are multiple tools, right? Like Klaviyo's and what do you call this? Web Engage, Mo Engage, Clever Taps, and the likes. We see a lot of smaller businesses get into that get into this cycle of trying to work with different tools to see what works the best for them. But it actually only makes sense at scale. For smaller businesses, it is always the best to keep the entire experience, the website experience, the platform experience super, super seamless. Don't reinvent the wheel, focus on the core offering, which is the product itself.
Understood. So read into the data only when you have it at scale and you've been doing it for a couple of years and you are able to draw some insights into that data. Okay. So with that, coming to Soumik, so we talked about data, we talked about getting the customers, retaining them on the platform. How important is it to sort of take care of the user experience, right? What is the role that you think user experience plays in e-commerce success? And I think, when one of the first few e-commerce marketplaces came in India, I think was talked about, a lot from a customer experience perspective. Has that changed? Is that something that still continues to be a competitive advantage for e-commerce marketplaces, or are there, some different metrics that we see as of today?
Again, I mean, I'm not commenting on any marketplace in specific, but I think as a user, I'll tell my typical journey, right? Whenever I tend to shop in when I have options to choose from multiple places to buy. I think the clarity of the browse, right? The way I'm able to identify the search and the accuracy of the search output, right? I think those in my mind plays a big role in terms of choosing from which app I should buy, right? And I think and over time, as we have been kind of discussing, and as Shiva and Hriday also mentioned, that I think we have seen that journey where we are out of the bare bone basics, right? Mostly the data pipeline is sorted. We know how to basically understand or capture impressions. We know how to capture the views, then the conversion metrics, and so on and so forth, right? What I think has an interesting scope, I believe, is that how do you understand the user kind of experience journey, right? And I have seen that in a very large organization, or even smaller organization, the fact that you do typical A/B testing just by putting one part of the app in one particular location versus other, and then you see the overall kind of, I would say, the conversion to go up, right? And kind of there are experiments which are done to understand that basket abandonment which happens, right, where customers just add the products but don't finally buy it. We have seen those type of things to kind of come down just by doing this small change on the page, right? And that's what I think there's a huge scope, and the startups and companies are also focusing how you can get these conversions better, because primarily in e-commerce, the main or the first input is the traffic, right? How do you draw traffic? And once the traffic is drawn, the next important element is the how do you convert that traffic into a click, then the click into addition to a basket, then the addition to a basket and final payment, and then finally it gets into the delivery. And even after delivery, you have to ensure that the customer doesn't return the product, else the entire effort of starting to get the traffic till conversion is just lost, right? So I think the fact that to have this seamless user experience, all these components of that the user experience journey, right, is very critical. And I think that and I believe that's a huge scope for all of us, and and in specific those companies who are engaged into the app design or UI UX has a big role to play to make that experience better, because finally if we are not working customer experience backwards, we are not actually driving the right level of inputs. Yeah.
Okay. So, on a similar line, Soumik, when you talk about customer experience, you talked about the different tools that we should deploy on our marketplace to be able to make the search engine or the search easy for the customers and be able to give them a better customer experience. What are your views on the business themselves? So, when you talk about, so I'll give you an example. So at KredX, we have, a SaaS solution called CMS, where we are helping the businesses to manage their own receivables, their payables, sort of chasing the customers to get the payments and, so obviously manage their cash flows. How important do you think are those kind of tools for the businesses or the e-commerce marketplaces, or the sellers on those marketplaces, when they are running their business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very pertinent question, and I think I'll just pick the thread where Hriday mentioned that there are a host of tools, right? So what you want, so say just taking a hypothetical situation. So you say you have a marketplace and you have one buyer and there are multiple buyers and there are multiple sellers, right? Now, the expectation which the sellers have is that sellers' key competence, what the key competence of the sellers are, ensuring that they list the right merchandise. Right? They know the possible change in trends. They know that, okay, which product is getting sold, whether maybe a women's ethnic wear is the need of the hour versus maybe a woman's, maybe a fashion wear, right? So they are very good in terms of identifying the trend, and it can be different for different categories. So a big role to enable these cohort of sellers to do their job better is to how you can absolve themselves from not getting bothered with the other things, right? The other things could be how to place the inventory, how to get the, I would say, the space in the FCs or the warehouses where they have to keep the goods, right? How to ensure that they are able to deliver the products on time, how to ensure that they are able to get early warning signals in terms of the SKUs which are getting out of stock, how to ensure that data is fed into a pipeline so that they can release their purchase orders back to the brands or the manufacturers, and so on and so forth, right? So this is very critical that finally we all know that we need to enable these large cohort of sellers, right, with this type similar sort of SaaS applications which can enable to do their business better, because they are good at their core, right? And in essence, right, I mean, they have been doing this business for a while they have been doing more like a offline kind of retail system. Now the moment it becomes online, they're not possibly trained or tuned to manage the systems at scale, right? So how do you do this, how to enable this? And it could be a mix of tools, it could be a mix of early warning signals, but you still need to make their life easy. I know that currently if you have to be a seller in any of the marketplace, which is agnostic of any name, but any marketplace or anywhere online, the amount of effort which needs to create your catalog, right, the amount of effort it needs to tag the right attribute of the ASIN, right, is immense, right? And unless those are done, the search will not happen. Unless that is done, the UI UX will not work, right? So, you have to really solve at the, fundamental level or the ground level where, you can make the life of the seller easy so that all these things, should be, it can't be a, click of a button, but it can be done in a much efficient manner so that the manual interventions can be, I would say, minimized. It can't be made zero, but it can be minimized and to an extent optimized. Yeah.
I think a very valid point, Soumik. So with this, I'll come to Shiva. So partnership has been the keyword in the industry of late, where we've seen some of the e-commerce players getting into partnerships with other companies, collaboration kind of tie-ups. So how important do you think is partnership to the entire e-commerce space essentially?
Sure. I think partnerships are super important. There are a couple of ways to look at this. If one is, this whole marketplace, marketplace approach that, say, Amazon and Flipkart have taken. And we see, the brands really partnering with these marketplaces to take their products to the customers. So I feel that's probably the most successful partnerships that we've already seen. We've seen, let's say, trying to buy future retail and trying to get some foothold into the brick and mortar world. So some of those partnerships have been more challenging versus brands getting onto marketplaces. So in my opinion, that's like really robust and strong partnerships that have really worked. We have a number of examples. Also, let's say we have like brands like Starbucks, which is closely working with Alibaba, right? So they've like seamlessly integrated the whole journey into the Alibaba ecosystem, including their payment ecosystem, and also they've made that really seamless for them. So some of the more successful ones I'm seeing is more in the marketplace and brand play versus standalone brand, Anurag. So I feel that's the way the future will also move. And given the customer acquisition costs that are really increasing every year, platforms like Google and Facebook are becoming more and more expensive. I think brands are really seeing that it's better to go to where the customers already are. And that is really driving this, where the platforms are holding most of the power. And those partnerships end up being more fruitful and win-win for everybody.
So coming to you, Hriday, so we've seen, the e-commerce industry rising in the last couple of years, reaching a sizable level where Walmarts of the world and, so biggies around the globe have taken notice of it. So what do you see the future of e-commerce in India? I mean, with now moving, with the e-commerce industry now moving from a duopolistic kind of model to maybe oligopolistic, for the lack of other words. What are your predictions for the future of e-commerce, and what strategies can businesses employ to align with it?
Sure. So let's look at the past a little, right? Like to look at the future then. Last few years, right? Last 3 years, to throw some stats, around 100 million shoppers came online, primarily fueled by the pandemic, the government initiatives, and giants like Jio coming in and making internet available to everyone, right?
Right.
We expect now, like within the next 2 years, next 3 years, the e-commerce market to go from like $80 billion to $165 billion, right? So it is like a massive, massive leapfrog that India is going to do when it comes to the e-commerce industry in general. Now, what is actually fueling this growth, right? Like a lot of people say it's also like, from e-commerce, we are moving to quick commerce. Well, quick commerce is just tier one, right? And what is actually fueling the growth in Indian e-commerce is tier two, tier three, and four, if you may call it. These are the rise in the upper middle class, the lower middle class as well, has been so phenomenal is in the last few years that whatever we are dealing with right now, right, like the entire market, which we think is huge, it is essentially just the tip of the iceberg. So when it comes to, what is in it for us in the future, it is basically these tier two, tier three, tier four cities coming primarily onto websites, be it D2C brands or e-commerce marketplaces, and then starting to shop with them. To speak from where we can think of optimizing what strategies, I think the first and foremost thing that I would do if I was to suggest someone doing a marketplace is to prepare for scale, be it logistics, inventory, capital. The scale that we are going to see in the coming years is going to be something that we haven't seen in the past, and it is going to be unprecedented, the growth, just because of the way India is rising, and obviously just because of the way that everything has gotten online, and people with the likes of UPI have gotten so used to interacting with the internet. So I think the first and foremost thing that we have to solve for is scale. The second is obviously this is also going to lead to a massive increase in the number of brands that we see coming in. So ultimately, there's something I've always been very vocal about, which is you can deploy multiple tools, you can do guerrilla marketing for all that matters. But the brands that are actually going to come out as winners, like, if you stretch this period into like 5-10 years, are brands that make beautiful products, make products that are actually useful and do deliver like utility to the end customer. So that is where I think so that the 10 years down the line, the dust is settled. Only the brands doing the best of products are going to succeed. All these tools and ways of marketing are just going to be catalyst towards that.
Okay. So picking up, from the same thread, Hriday, you talked about scaling, right? Or maybe preparing to scale, right? Some of the businesses were, let's say, small today, when they sort of get to a certain level, they should, or rather, they should be ready to, take on the demand which is coming in the next decade, as we see. What are the ways in which some of these businesses can actually scale, right? And one of the essential elements of scaling, what we have seen, with our experience in the last 9 years is that working capital is very important for some of these businesses to scale up, and which is where we have been operating an invoice discounting marketplace and helping businesses to facilitate working capital for them. What are the other aspects that you believe are essentials for some of these businesses to scale up and be ready to be able to take on that challenge in the next decade?
I think the answer is very simple to that, right? It is processes that ultimately would scale with the company, right? Things that you do as a small business today, can you do that when your orders go 100x, 1000x, 10,000x? So no matter what processes, be it from the finance side, the inventory side, or probably the shipment, the logistics side, so we have to start businesses thinking, can this system be scaled 100x? Can this system be scaled 1000x, right? Because it is not that, you can scale probably just, for an example, an inventory management solution or a just-in-time model for your business. You would need other things like logistics. You would need something like capital that becomes the backbone of the business in the long run, right? But that is essentially it, which is, can you put in processes in a way that they can scale as you grow? You do not have to change a lot.
Okay. So coming to Soumik, would you like to add on this, Soumik, in terms of scaling? What are the things that the businesses should keep in mind, to scale up?
Again, I think the answer is, I would again say kind of customer backwards, right? So basically, you can only achieve scale when you have your inputs correct, right? When I say inputs, right, your overall inventory, number of sellers, right, a number of options which you give, which you give the sellers to grow, right? I think herein I think the role of KredX and other part, supply chain finance comes in play. How you can enable them to have a better turn on their capital, right? That's where I think the scale will come, right? I mean, of course, so the scale will come by a combination of these multiple solutions, which could be financing solution, which could be IT solutions, but primarily a combination of these two is where we need a strong focus to take smaller sellers to kind of get to the next level, because I think a large number of sellers are still now, I think, are deficient in terms of kind of getting the right level of capital at the right cost, which potentially could have enabled them to grow faster, right? So again, in just a summary, we need two things. One, on the financing side, what are the different two options which we can give, and also the IT solution which can make the sellers run their business much more efficiently, right? So that they don't think that because they are not tech-enabled or tech-savvy, they're kind of not able to scale fast, right? And how do you get this large number of sellers in the country, kind of get them onboarded into IT tools so that they can do their job in a much better way.
Okay.
Just to add on to that, what we are, so in my experience, right, I've seen the best of businesses doing probably like the highest number of sales. A lot of them, a similar line that has been when it comes to, have their bad days is probably because of their relationships with vendors and their ability to scale as well. So backward integration matters a lot. what we have seen is e-commerce players generally are very, very tech savvy, right? Like with so many tools, they are able to put like together a system that can scale. But in India specifically, the manufacturing is not there yet. So one day when you were placing an order for 1,000 pieces, the manufacturer was able to fulfill it very, very nicely, very, very seamlessly. The next day you go with 1 lakh pieces, the manufacturer's systems break. So it is not only your system, you have to go back and see people who you are sourcing from or other services that you're using, are they scalable as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Shiva, delving deep on the same point, what are some of the effective, marketing tactics for, scaling e-commerce businesses and maybe reaching out to a wider audience?
Sure. So I agree with Soumik and Hriday that the basics need to be in place, right? So product market fit is like the most important aspect of any business in my mind, and we need to have that right. The tools around that are really enablers, right? So there's tech, and there are a number of SaaS solutions for almost each of your needs that can easily solve whatever you need to do. You just need to be as a growing e-commerce player, you just need to be aware in the market, do your research, pick the right tools. That's the easy part. The probably the number one thing that a player needs to look at is the product market fit, whether they have the right product to address the needs that the customer is looking to solve, and are they keeping in track of the growing and the changing needs of the customer, and evolve their product to fit that need. So that's like the most important thing in scaling, right? Once you get past that, I think the next most important and the most difficult aspect of growth is this whole customer acquisition journey, right? So that where people take different approaches, and there's no one path to success. It's still say an art rather than a science. So again, there are few things that in this industry has worked very well. Influencers play a big role, and I think a lot of the companies take advantage of influencers as a very low cost approach to acquiring new customers, because influencers already bring a certain pool of target customers, assuming that the influencer target market matches with the brand. So they're able to leverage the influencers well. There are a number of tools like BuzzSumo is one. There are many other tools that a small business can look at to understand this whole ecosystem, find out what a good influencer is for them, and even transact with them. The influencers also are in these marketplaces, so you can easily transact with them through that. The other big trend that I'm already seeing is hyper personalization of the entire communication, right? So it starts with the content on the web page, right? Soumik was talking about, how do we really personalize this to the needs of the customer? So there are a number of content syndicators that are coming in, also service providers who can really help you, understand the personas you're targeting to, and then put the attributes, the descriptions, the images, the solutions, really focused on these people. So again, these are emerging trends that I see will become more and more mainstream with AI coming and everything. People will start this hyper personalization more and more. So I think if somebody can get ahead of that, I think that's going to be very interesting. The other big opportunity I'm seeing, especially after ChatGPT, Anurag, is this whole voice, right? So I think ChatGPT especially has disrupted voice in a way that, say, an Alexa or somebody has not even done so far. It is so seamless. The communication is and the interaction is so easy. So imagine extrapolating that to, say, 24 Indian languages and the ability to transact and complete commerce in a very easy way. I think that's coming probably sooner than we all think, right? Where anybody in like Hriday was saying, like a tier 4 city is able to do the transaction over voice, because it's just gotten so good and so easy that they can just order what they want without even knowing to read and write. So that's going to bring millions and millions of new people into the market. So again, these are some of the trends I'm seeing which can help with customer acquisition. But I think the core is really about finding the product market fit and keeping track of these tools that are available. I think as a small e-commerce retailer, we don't have to make all these things. We just have to keep an eye out of what is there in the market, who are the service providers who are providing the right solution, like, working capital, you spoke about KredX. So, we just need to look at the right providers, partner with them so that you bring the technology into your into your site or into your product solution. And then I think it's very easy to win this market, especially considering the big growth that we all expect here.
Okay. Coming to the and maybe slightly digressing from the main topic, I think sustainability has been one important area where people have been talking about. There's a lot of wastage in packaging. There's so many inefficiencies in the whole process that the e-commerce players follow. So, what are your views on that? And maybe we can take it up one by one. Starting with Siva. In terms of sustainability, why is it important from an e-commerce perspective? And are there any real life examples of sustainable practices that you have seen in this space?
So sustainability, I think my view is sustainability is important as a business because our customers care for it, right? So if we are selling a product where customer is seeing, a lot of waste around it and all, versus some other person who is able to do it effectively, customers are going to move to a more eco-friendly solution because customers do care. Most of the younger generation definitely want a solution which is very sustainable. So I think that's the number one reason for us to do this. The second thing is it's the right thing, right? So, even as a small business, we all know that that's the right thing to do, that, we have a solution which is eco-friendly, which caters to, a sustainable way of life. So those are the big reasons. And I think everybody is in alignment. But I think the real challenge is the how and whether there's technology which is supportive to do this in a cost-effective way so that we're not passing too much cost to the customer. Again, the other area is there is also a little bit of, say, let's say, apprehension in terms of brands, of late trying to greenwash and trying to, say, hey, we are sustainable when they're really not, right? Like, and then we keep on seeing a number of examples of that. So there is a fair amount of, say, apprehension and maybe cynicism among the customers, when brands take that angle. But we do see when brands have been really true to their philosophy and true to it across, and don't keep changing their stance, are consistent no matter what happens in delivering. I think they do work. Some of the tools that again like I spoke about tools, and I have come across companies which actually partner with e-commerce sellers and help them integrate this whole sustainable experience into the buying process. Like EcoCart is an example that comes to mind, where they help help the customer understand the carbon footprint of the purchase they are making, what they can do to reduce it, also provide ways to kind of reduce the carbon footprint. So again, we don't have to do it all ourselves. There are tools, there are other people in the ecosystem who are helping retailers do this. So we just have to partner with the right people to be able to solve for some of these.
Okay. So I think no discussion would be complete without talking about Q-commerce, as far as e-commerce looking at. So I mean, one quick view in brief about what do you see and how do you see Q-commerce or quick commerce? I mean, do you feel it is eating into the e-commerce pie, or it's creating its own market? I mean, maybe 10 seconds for each one of you.
I can go first. So my view is, I think I think there's very soon a day where all the different channels all start converging into finally providing a solution which is seamless to the customer. I think we are moving fast towards that. E-commerce, Q-commerce, physical channel, again, the whole omni channel approach is what will ultimately sustain. Everything will become par for the course. I don't think anybody cannot have a digital presence and be only physical, or not have a physical presence only digital. I think it's just a matter of time before everything starts converging, and we are really being there wherever the customer wants us to.
What about you, Soumik? What's your sense on this one?
Yeah, I think I think quick commerce is going to be will achieve some sort of concentration in certain product segments, and it's also in the mind of the customers that what they want quick have to be delivered, right? So I believe that we have seen kind of grocery space in the quick commerce to get huge traction, right? But I don't see say a fashion space to be into kind of quick commerce, right? However, what I know that uh, in kind of today's world, in reality, I know that say if you just uh, move back maybe 5 or 10 years earlier, right? So most of the deliveries were 2 to 3 days or maybe 5 to 6 days and so on and so forth. And a certain part of the delivery were on the same day or on the next day. Right now, if you see, even in the retail space or e-commerce space, most of the deliveries we get on the same day, right? And very few instances why we see that it is delivered in even 2 to 3 days, right? Which essentially means that we are already into quick commerce. Now,
You're already
quick commerce have to be
converging.
defined in a way that what is quick, right? If you define quick commerce to be 12-minute or 15-minute delivery, then I don't think that I don't need a fashion product in 15 minutes, or I don't need an iPhone in possibly kind of 15 minutes, right? So in my mind, I think quick commerce will have its own concentration into certain segments which customers perceive they need it quick, right? But only time can tell, and also we also need to understand what is quick might not stay for long, right? So we have to see whether we are able to give a sustainable answer to this quick thing, right? So yeah.
What about you, Hriday? What is your view on this?
If quick commerce, very great point, right? How do you define quick? If you define quick by 15, 20, 30 minutes delivery, I have my apprehensions when it comes to the financial viability of these models. Again, long term, right? India is developing, cost of labor is going to become expensive. And we as in our DNA, we are not used to paying for delivery over and above what the product costs. We are used to discounts on products. So how far it scales beyond tier one, tier two, tier one and essentially 1.5 is something that we have to watch, and how far it scales when the country starts to develop in a way that the wages go up, the cost of labor goes up. How can we serve quick commerce then is something which is going to be very, very interesting to watch.
Cool. I think that was lovely, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate you being here and being a part of this webinar. And thank you once again, and hoping to do many more in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anurag.
Yeah, Anurag, thank you. Have a good day. Bye.